So first of all, thank you for inviting me down. I was not too sure kind of how to tell my story, because everything from the very beginning led to getting the arm. So I thought the best way to do it was literally tell you my whole life story. All right. So I'll start that. So before my illness, I fell ill with meningococcal septicemia at the age of 5, and I was a perfectly normal child. There was nothing at all wrong. I grew up with my mum and my brother in a small council house, and it was a sort of community where you knew everybody. Nobody came in without you knowing, you know. So at that point, I've got nothing but happy memories of before my illness, and to be honest, if looking back, the amount that things changed, you wouldn't believe. It changed, to be honest, for the negative afterwards. So, as I said before, I fell ill at the age of 5, and I thought I'd kind of show the experience there that I went through. I wasn't aware of what was happening. I was out on my bike one day and come back in, hadn't fell over or anything, but I was complaining of a sore ankle. My uncle, who passed away a few years ago, came over and said, "We're gonna have to chop it off." And he blamed himself, because obviously what had happened, you know. But I went to bed and I was just hallucinating. I was stiff and sweating, and I don't remember anything past this point until 8 weeks later when I woke up, and I was just, there was no legs, no hand, and I was on a lot of medication, so it was a weird time. But what was interesting about it when I look back though is I have a son, and I don't know how I would cope with it, but my mum was incredibly strong. She was determined to get me my life back, make sure that I was able to do things, because in fact they said I would never walk, I'd never talk, I'd always need help. My old school didn't want me back because they didn't know how they were going to cope with me. All the friends I had when I was younger, they had no interest because I couldn't do the same things as them. So I became just this person on my own, and my only outlet at that point was video games. So following, it took me 2 years to learn to walk again. And that was 2 years of daily travelling up to the hospital for physiotherapy. And a lot of that had to come with the fact that the way they used to do operations, they don't do them the same now. So on your legs, the scar is, on mine, it's directly at the bottom of my leg. So when I walk, I'm walking on the scar, whereas now they do it on the front, so you've got the padding of your muscle. So there's not a lot they can do about that, unless I get more amputations now, which I don't really want, you know. But what I found is when I was able to walk again, I went to a new school and I made friends, and I was happy again, like to a standard. I was able to play football with my friends at school. I do, however, wish I didn't go to a special school at the time, because it led to a lot more problems that made me hold back on getting something like a hero arm. But I'll explain that. So at the age of 10, I noticed girls, and I decided, I was very self-conscious because I only had prosthetic legs, didn't have a hand at all, and so I haven't got a picture of the exact hand, but that's the closest I could find to it, and that's what I got, and I wore it for 2 weeks. And after that, I decided it was just this dead weight, it was ugly, and I got more stairs than ever, you know. So from then I went through quite a rough patch of low self-confidence, and I just decided at the time there wasn't anything anyway, really, but I decided not to pursue anything further and just kind of manage as I was, you know. So then, in my teenage years, the low self-esteem continued. I went to college and failed everything. All of my friends that I'd went to school with passed away because they'd had degenerative illnesses. And so I battled depression and I had a couple of problems with eating disorders, you know. So there was never an outlook of me bettering myself or having something that would better myself, you know. But what I would say is that I wouldn't change this part of my life. And the reason being is I'm the person I am today as a result of it. I'm stronger, I have a better outlook on other people. I'm a more caring person than I think I would ever be otherwise. So sometimes I think you've got to go through the rough before you get something good out of it. But what I did do at this time in my life is I changed my name, because my birth name's Stephen. I changed it to Daniel because I decided that with the tattoo, I was going to rise from the ashes like a phoenix and become this new person. And it was then that I met Danielle, and she is the one that actually told me about the hero arm. And still at that point, I decided I couldn't afford it. It wasn't something I would be able to look at until maybe if I'm remortgaged in the future or something, you know. And due to the people that I grew up with, I know there's people worse off than me. So I always felt that I wanted to help them before myself. So I left it at that point because at that point it was just me. I felt I didn't really need it, you know. And we had been together 3 years before we had Joshua, and it was then that things became evident that I needed to do something. Joshua, from being born, Danielle had a C-section, so but she still had to do everything, which was incredibly difficult to watch, because I know I could see the pain she was going through, and all I wanted to do was help. I still haven't been able to change a nappy because he moves too much, but hadn't been able to change a nappy at all. Often picking him up was dangerous. I'd do it because I had to, but it was dangerous. And ultimately, if he was upset, he didn't want me. He wanted his primary caregiver, and that was his mum. More than most fathers experience that, because every child wants the mum, but not to the same extent. You know, there was no way I could calm him down at all. So what I did was I started raising money towards a Bionic arm, and I can't believe how generous people are, because I thought it was not that important, you know. There's more important things out there, but people helped, and we got nearly halfway there. And then Chris gave us a call, and it was just a life-changing call. You know, like, I couldn't believe he was ringing me, you know. I'm sure there was a few profanities, wasn't there? Potentially. But yeah, it was like winning the lottery, and you know, sometimes, well, as I said before, you go through the bad to get the good, and I think maybe I had my fair share bad to get there. So I'm really grateful. So thank you again for doing that. And the day I got my arm, honestly, I was smelling like a Cheshire cat all day. Couldn't, it wasn't like I imagined, you know. It was special. It was 21 years building up to that moment, and it was mine, you know. Couldn't stop looking at it. It's amazing. And what I've found though is I'm not very good with it yet at all. But immediately it's impacted my life with my confidence. Now I can go to a shop and not constantly have the comments of, look at that man's hand. Look at that man with no hand. It's, wow, look at his robotic hand. You know, it's totally different, because ultimately it gets to you. You know, the stares, the comments, and now for a positive reason. Now I'm the center of attention, and it's great, you know. So yeah, I'd say my confidence hasn't been higher, and my mental health was a lot better as well as a result. And I've said it lots of times, but I think that's where this has the biggest effect. Not the physical of helping me have pick up a glass or anything like that. It's mentally that, because at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, it's only you and your thoughts. That's it. And nobody can help them. But I never thought my life would change this much. And essentially, my plans for the future now are just to be the best dad I can be. We've spoke about maybe having another, and hopefully I can do a lot more, which would be amazing. And what I want to do is I want to help others with their mental illness and achieve their goals, because, as I say, this hand, I imagine it was created predominantly for people to physically do things, but honestly, it's mental health that's its biggest change. And if I can help people realize it's available and give them the same effects, then I've done something right, you know. And ultimately, I want to make Joshua proud in doing so. I've also started a YouTube channel, which hasn't got any videos yet, so I haven't really started it. But it's going to start with this, and I'm going to do everything I can to spread the word of this hand and what you great people do for people.